Hello and welcome. It's Jennifer. I'm glad you're here. And today I have for you one of those longer videos. I hope you can take some time to rest after the holiday and enjoy watching. Now in this video, I'm sharing with you several different spinning snow globe cards that I created. Now these are special. They're keepsakes. People can keep these and put them up every year for the holidays. You can make them for non-holiday too. They do flatten to fit in an envelope, but really this is about creating a treasure for a person to keep. Now, I will be using two snow globe die sets from Scrappy Tales that allow you to create these cards pretty easily, but then you can incorporate them with other dies that you have. I try to avoid doing videos that require certain products, but these I just thought were so cool that I wanted to share. I will also be sharing some regular cards that I use with the same products. So if you're not interested in the spinner cards, you could check these out too. Okay, let's get started by creating the tree spinner snow globe card first. Now here's a look at the completed card first. I think it's helpful to see the direction we're headed in. So this pops up as soon as you take it out of the envelope. It does flatten to fit in the envelope, so you can see me flatten it here. And then when the recipient takes it out, they can stand it up and have it on display. And that little tree in the center just hangs there, and you can even wind it up first so it'll spin as soon as you take it out. Now I am going to show how to make 3 of these today. Each one I assemble a little bit different, so I encourage you to watch each to find out which would seem to make the most sense to you. It's really easy to do. Now these are the 2 different snow globe pop-up die sets I'm using today. The first is the Slimline version, which is on the left. This will make a card that is perfect for a Slimline envelope, so it's about 3.5 by 8.5. On the right is the A7 snow globe pop-up die set. That will make about a 5 by 7 card. So these are a little bit bigger, but I think that gives us a lot of opportunity to use other dies and stamps with it. You can have anything you want spinning there in the middle of those. Now let's get started with the Slimline snow globes first. Now I'll be creating 2 in today's video. One has a tree and one has a nutcracker. The nutcracker is my favorite. But do know that Scrappy Tales did several add-ons, and they have them available to be the spinning element in the center of your snow globe. For example, this one has a little village scene. You can assemble this and then have this be the spinning element. Or you can use products you already have, and I'll show you how that's done later too. I just decided to use the products meant to go with it, just in case you wanted to see those. Another of the add-ons available is a Snowman, and I really like this size because it would work on a regular card too and a mini Slimline. I like that these dies have the little markings, so if you wanted to, you could just cut this die on the left and add color to the different areas. But if you're like me and like to assemble little die cuts, you could die cut all those little pieces and add it to make a layered snowman. Lila's excited to use that one. He'd be fun spinning in the center of the snow globe too. And then there's also this angel die set. So you could, again, use these add-ons for the spinning element, or you can use whatever products you have that will fit. Let's go ahead and create the trees that will spin there in the center. I am using one of the Scrappy Tail add-ons. This is the Christmas tree add-on. I like these trees because they fit nice in the center of a mini Slimline card too, which you'll see later. There are 2 trees in this, one that's solid and one that cuts lots of details that you can pop out and add back onto the trees. And there are also presents, which I don't use today, and a tree stand. Now what I decided to do is just use the solid tree and cut that from green cardstock. And I inked up the edges with a darker green, just for a little look of dimension. I have 3 of those trees here. 2 will be needed for our spinner card. The other one will be for the bonus card I'll show you in a bit. I'm just creating them all at once. Now I didn't use all the little elements that the tree die cuts, except these little banners that go back and forth on the tree. Those I cut from gold cardstock, and I just glued them onto the solid tree. And I also added the little red tree stands to each. Now these trees I wanted to make it look a little more full, so I cut 2 more solid trees, and I didn't put any inking on those. And those I'm gluing offset behind our 2 decorated trees. So it just gives a look of fullness along the edges of the tree. I did also add some silver and red gemstones and a gold die cut star to the top of the tree also. So we have the two that match for our spinner card. The third tree I'm setting aside for later. So you could decorate this tree however you want. I kept it simple just by adding a bunch of gems to them. Also, when the card spins, those gems sparkle even more. And notice these can be glued back to back for the spinning element. Now that our tree is ready, let's do the snow globe itself. Now remember the die set on the left, it has the outline of the snow globe and then the large window. I'm taping those two together and running them through my die cut machine at the same time to create the snow globe outline. Now I am using my Spellbinders Platinum. This is their new limited edition color. It's Aqua. I just think it's beautiful. So I thought I'd use it today. And it comes with these blue glitter plates, cutting plates. I just love it. But you can use whatever machine you have. And I have my two dies taped together here. And I am running this through. Now this is a long die. It actually fits between the plates, but if you just want to make it easier, what you can do is run half of the die through the die cut machine, then rotate it and get the rest of the die in between the cutting plates and run that through. So if your plates look a little too small for this large die, just run through half and then the other half. Okay, so now we have this snow globe outline, and I'm going to cut a few more of these. I find doubling up cardstock really helps with the structure of the snow globe. So I cut one from gold cardstock, and I'm gluing that onto one that I cut from white cardstock. This will be the front of our snow globe. Then I cut two others from white. That will form the back of our snow globe. If you have super heavyweight cardstock, you may not have to double up like this, but I just think it helps it to stand up straight and sturdy. I will share some other tricks later on in case you don't want to double up. But now we have the front of our snow globe and the back of our snow globe. Next, I'm using the small die that is in the bottom left corner of the screen. It's a rectangle with score lines and a hole in the middle. I call that the spinning element. This I'm just going to cut from white cardstock or whatever cardstock you have, and then we'll fold along the score lines, and there'll be a little hole at the center fold. And I'm just folding this to create like an M, and the hole will be at the bottom center of the M. So let me unfold it here, and you can see the hole right there in the center. This is where this spinning element will hang from. I'm gluing this little M at the top center of the back of our snow globe. We'll add the front onto this a little bit later. Now I'm using a strong liquid adhesive, this is Gina K Connect, so that I can wiggle it around and then hold it there until it dries. You can also use double-sided tape, but I like using the liquid adhesive so I can wiggle it. I'm using reverse tweezers to clamp it there while it dries. Next, you need some kind of string or ribbon or something. I like using thin thread. Fishing line would be great for this too, but I'm using gold thread today. To add the thread, I'm taking it and hooking it underneath that M. So underneath the little spinning element at the top. So I just hooked it underneath, and now I'm going to take the ends of that thread and feed them through the hole at the center of the spinning element. So I just feed it down through the hole. This is probably the hardest part of the whole thing, and it's not that hard to do either. So I put it right through the hole, so the two ends are now hanging down at the center of the spinning element. There are a few different ways you can add that string. I'll share some more later, but I found that this was the easiest way to make sure that the string was hooked up there on the spinning element. Okay, so now I have these two ends right at the center. I'm going to put them aside for a moment. I have one of my trees. You can see it's messy on the back. That's because I changed my mind on something. Just ignore that. And I am using temporary tape to tape that onto my work surface right at the center of the snow globe window. So it's just centered there, just holding it in place so it doesn't move. I'm now bringing the two ends of the thread and I'll lay it along the center of that tree and use a piece of Scotch tape to hold it in place. You can use any tape that you want. I just find Scotch tape easy to do. I can then remove the temporary tape, cut off the ends of the threads, and then I like to add adhesive right there at the top so that the thread stays at the top center. So I actually have a little glue dot that I'm putting on the back of the star, and then I will press the thread right into that. Now you could have taped it here or glued it another way. This just seemed the easiest way to keep that thread right in the center of the top of the tree. Now I have my other tree and I'm putting glue on that, a generous amount of liquid glue because we want to keep that thread sandwiched between. And now we'll put that right on top. And now we have this spinning element with the thread sandwiched between. And again, I'm using my reverse tweezers to just pinch that top so that it stays together while it dries. Now it's time to form the snow globe itself. So I used one of the large dies included in the set to cut this piece, and it creates little score lines along it. I am just accordion folding back and forth along these score lines. Very easy to do. This will form the base of our snow globe, and because of the accordion fold, when you take it out of the envelope, it spreads apart, and it allows you to have the snow globe stand. So I'm folding along each line, and you'll end up with one larger flap sticking out at the end. That is for the front of the snow globe. You can either keep this or cut it off. You'll see different options in today's video. I do like to, once I have the accordion folding done, press it down firmly with a bone folder. And there you can see the base of our snow globe. This is super easy. Now the side without the large flap, the smaller flap, I'm gluing right to the base of our snow globe back. So right along the bottom there. This is, again, an opportunity to use double-sided tape or liquid adhesive. I really like liquid adhesive here because you can wiggle it till it's just right, which is important when you're adding the front panel. Now I wanted to show you one way to add the front panel here. I'm putting adhesive on the small flap next to the large one. And then I'll take the front of the snow globe and press it right into that little nook there, and then flatten everything down. So I'm going to flatten this all down to make sure that the front gold panel of the snow globe lines up with the back, the white one. See, I'm lining it all up and pressing it down. You'll notice that white piece on the front is just a decorative element where you could stamp a sentiment or something. Now I decided I don't want that white panel right there on the front. So I'm just taking this off quickly, an advantage of using liquid adhesive, and I'm going to cut that front panel off. So I just wanted to show you that if you want that there, that's how you would assemble it. But I'm cutting off that front part, putting more adhesive on this little flap here, and then adding the gold on. Again, you want to press the accordion down as you're adding this to make sure that it all lines up nicely. It's not hard to do, especially once you've done it once. And I'll show you another way to assemble this in my next example too. So there, I press it down, line everything up, and just give it a little bit of time to dry there. The last step in assembling the snow globe is gluing the spinner element at the top. So on the front panel or little flap of the spinner element, I will add some liquid adhesive and then press down the front of it onto it. Press it down, make sure everything lines up. Really make sure that adhesive sticks. And there we have our spinning snow globe. And you can decorate this however you want. I like to put something heavy on it once I'm sure it's all lined up nicely to give it some time to dry. So here's what we have. Look at how well that spins there in the center. It pops up to give you the dimension to stand up. Now notice the sides are standing tall and sturdy, no problem. But if you find your sides are warping a little bit or kind of bowing a bit, you can add supports to them. In my next example, I show you how to put some accordion fold supports on the side. That die comes with the set too. I didn't add it to this card, but I will in the next one. Another simple thing you could do is just glue some cardstock strip supports in along the edges like I'm showing you here. I didn't do that because I didn't feel my card needed it, but if yours kind of bows a little bit, you can add those supports very easily. Now we can decorate the snow globe itself. I used this Greetery Opposites Attract Holiday Stamp Set and Coordinating Dies. Love the style of this. I white heat embossed Merry Christmas on red cardstock, and then I use the coordinating dies to cut them out. And I'll put that at the base of our snow globe. I also have this little piece here to put as a little decorative element. That die is included in the snow globe die set. Just gives a nice finishing touch, and I did that from gold cardstock also. Now I'm adding Merry Christmas right to this bottom center, leaving the edges unglued. That way I can tuck little die cuts behind it. I used the Memory Box Holly Bundles die, which you see up there on the top right. I've used this in videos before. I cut those from some green cardstock scraps, and I'm tucking them underneath the word Merry and Christmas. Later, once this is all assembled, I can go and squeeze a little adhesive behind the ends of the word Merry Christmas to make sure it stays. I also put some holly at the top of this snow globe just for a bit of decoration, and some red die cut circles along with red gems. Really didn't add much there, and it really doesn't take that long to put together. So there you can see how it comes out of a Slimline envelope, which is just a regular letter envelope, pops up to stand, and one of the things you can do is wind the tree, as you see me doing here. You just wind it, then put it in the envelope. So when the person takes it out of the envelope, it'll start spinning right away. I think this is a fun treasure to give to someone because they can keep it year after year. I will then just put a cardstock piece in with this in the envelope that I can write the personal message on. I can also write the date and my name on the bottom back of the snow globe itself. I will put this in a bubble mailer to be sure it gets there safely, or just hand give it to the recipient. I also wanted to show you what that tree looks like on a regular non-spinning, non-snow globe card. This is a mini Slimline card that is 3.5 by 6.25 inches. And I did the tree the same way, but this time I did blue colored gemstones, which I think is really fun. Now, the card is cut from pool colored cardstock, and then I added a background die cut in white, just for a little bit of interest. The Joy is gold heat embossed from the Greetery stamp set that I used on the last example too. By the way, that background die is one of my favorites. It's from Photoplay, and it creates this dot pattern that seems to work with just about any occasion of mini Slimline card. Here's another example of the Slimline snow globe. Now this one has a Nutcracker that spins in the center, and I am crazy about this die set. I also show you a different way to assemble this and add the supports along the side. For the spinning element on this card, I used the Scrappy Tales Nutcracker die set. This Nutcracker is amazing. Look at all the detailed dies that you can add to it. Now you could just cut the Nutcracker itself. You see it creates little marks for the different areas and color it with markers. But I love assembling all those little die cuts. And you could create different color Nutcrackers. You can create a little scene of them. I'm creating 2 that are identical for the spinning element. Then I'm creating one that's pink and purple that I'll add to just a regular card. I like to assemble all the pieces at once. What I like about this die set is that detailed die cuts are included for those who want to use them. You could use all of them or some of them, and it'll still create a really nice looking Nutcracker element. I like to use my reverse tweezers to hold the tiny die cuts as I add the adhesive to them and then add them into place. This is an excellent time to use up your scraps too. Now for the face on these, I just used a Copic marker to do different skin tones, and I also added a little blush to the cheeks too. So do know you can always color the different elements if you prefer. I used regular cardstock for most of the pieces, but I did also use black glossy for the boots and gold matte cardstock for the little accent pieces. Then for the little buttons and the eyes, I use little baubles, gold and black, just to add a little bit of dimension. So I have 2 Nutcrackers that are the exact same. You could make them different if you wanted to, totally up to you. So now it's time to create the snow globe. I have these 2 dies taped together just like before, and I'm cutting 4 of these from craft colored cardstock. I did definitely double up the layers this time because my craft cardstock is a little bit thinner. So I glued 2 together for the front of the snow globe and 2 together for the back of the snow globe. I used the large accordion fold die to create the base, and I did that from craft color cardstock also. This time I tried reinforcing with my scoreboard each of those score lines, but I found it really wasn't necessary. You can just fold them back and forth and the folds will go nicely, creating the accordion fold base for our snow globe. Now for this example, I'm assembling the snow globe first, then adding the spinning element. So I'm putting adhesive on this little flap that's next to the large flap, and I'm putting the front of my snow globe right into that little nook. I will fold that piece up on the front later to give a finished look on the front, but again, you could cut it off like I did on my last example. I used liquid adhesive so I could wiggle it into place and then let it dry. Now on the other end of that accordion fold, I'm putting liquid adhesive and gluing the back of the snow globe to it, so the bottom back, and then I will force this flat. So I'll flatten the accordion fold and make sure the front snow globe panel lines up with the back of the snow globe too. Then I like to use my reverse tweezers just to kind of squeeze that there and so it holds in place as it dries. Now look at the die set on the left. Notice that tall, narrow rectangle over on the left-hand side. I didn't use that die on my last example, but I'm going to use it on this example just to show you how you can add more oomph to your snow globe so it pops up even more. Now that piece creates accordion folds for the side of the snow globe. So I used that die to cut 4 of the rectangles from craft color cardstock. The die does create the score lines, so I did an accordion fold with all 4 of those pieces, and it creates the element like you see here. I'm going to glue 2 of those accordion folded pieces together, just one flap to the other flap, just to make a larger accordion fold. Now these will get glued to the side of our snow globe to give it a little more dimension and a little more strength. I didn't do this on my last example, so it's not always necessary, but I wanted to show you the option just in case you wanted to include it. So now I have 2 of those large accordion fold pieces created, and I put glue on the outside flaps of one of them, and I'm just putting them between the front and the back of our snow globe right along one edge and pressing it into place. I then will do the same on the other side too. I think here you can see why a strong liquid adhesive is better than using double-sided tape, because you can kind of move it until it's positioned just right and press it down. So now we have this really great dimensional snow globe, nice and strong, and we can add whatever spinning element we want. Now this next thing is important. I am using add-ons that are meant for little spinning elements in the center of here, but the actual snow globe die set itself has a die that cuts that piece there in the center, where you could stamp or glue any die cuts you want. You could decorate the front of that, and then on the other side maybe have a little message or greeting and have that be your spinning element. So you don't have to get the specific add-on spinner elements. You could use what you have along with the Slimline snow globe die set. Okay, now it's time to add that spinning element. So I've got that little spinner element die cut here that I'm folding into an M, and it has a hole at the bottom of the M. I'm putting glue on both of the little outside flaps and gluing that right at the top center, sandwiching it between the front and the back of the snow globe. Now once this is dry, we can add our string. So last example, I showed you how to add the string and the spinner element before assembling the snow globe. This time I'm doing it after. I think it's a little bit easier to add the spinner element first, then assemble the snow globe, but it's up to you. I wanted to show you both. So I have a piece of thread that I am putting underneath that spinner element, and I'll pull the ends out. I will then put one end through the hole from the top, and then the other end through the hole from the top. So this kind of wraps it around the spinner element so that the ends of the thread are hanging down through the spinner window. So there's one end through the hole, then the other end goes through the hole. So it's wrapped around that spinner element right at the center. Using baker's twine might work really well here because it's easier to use than thread, but the thread really does allow it to spin nicely. So I have the 2 ends of the thread hanging down the window, and I'm just putting a piece of tape there so they're kind of stretched straight down. Now I'm putting adhesive on the back of one of our nutcrackers, and then I will sandwich the thread between this nutcracker and the other. I love this little guy, and I think it's fun how he spins right there in the center. Now for decorating the snow globe itself, I used the Memory Box Double Joy die set. I cut the solid joy from white and the outline from gold and glued those together. I'm putting the 3 letters close together on my sticky mat so I can get the placement just right, the spacing and making sure it's straight. I will then take a piece of masking tape and press it down over those letters and pick them all up together. I'll put liquid adhesive on the back of that and then add it to the front bottom of our snow globe. Once again, I did decide to cut that little base off so that there's room to add this. So I put liquid adhesive on the back of each and just pressed it right down. It's so much easier than gluing each of the 3 down individually and getting them spaced and lined up just right. Once the glue has dried, I can remove the tape and everything is good and centered. I also used my Hero Arts Infinity Stars die set to die cut stars of different sizes to decorate the snow globe. I cut these from the red cardstock, gold matte cardstock, and white cardstock, and just glued them to the snow globe on the front. You could decorate this as much as you want, but I feel like that Nutcracker is such a focal point that I don't want to distract too much from that. So this all flattens and goes into a slimline envelope or a regular letter size envelope. And because of all those accordion fold pieces that we have built into the snow globe, when it comes out of the envelope, it pops up and you can immediately stand it up and the little element of the Nutcracker spins. So this Nutcracker is definitely the favorite of the dies that I share in this video, whether you use it with the snow globe or not. I love the details of it. I did also white heat emboss Happy Holidays on a red cardstock strip using a CZ Design stamp set. There you can see all the detail in the snow globe, and by keeping the snow globe itself pretty simple with the craft cardstock and just the sentiment and a few stars, the focal point definitely stays on the Nutcracker itself. Again, I do recommend kind of spinning the Nutcracker a few times before you put it in the envelope so that when the recipient takes it out, it does spin on its own. Now remember, I made a third Nutcracker that was with pink and purples. Well, I used that on a regular card. This is a mini slimline, so once again, it is 3.5 by 6.25 inches. And I used the Photoplay background dot die once again. So you can see all that colorful dimension. This time I did some silver accents, and then I did a silver foiled sentiment across it that says "'Tis the season." Now, I like this Nutcracker die set so much that I've already cut a bunch more pieces to make more tags using the Nutcracker. I actually cut everything from white, and then I will change the color of each of the pieces with markers. I thought that might be faster. Now this is the Scrappy Tales Bold Christmas Sentiments Hot Foil Plate Set. This is where I got this sentiment from, and I'll use it again later in this video. I'm not showing the hot foil process in this video to save time, but I will link here to a video on the top right where you can see how to do that. It's very simple and it gives beautiful results. Okay, my next example uses the other snow globe die set from Scrappy Tales. This one gives you an overall size of 5 inches by 7 inches. So again, here's the die set over on the right that I'm using this time. It has a circle center to it, so you can use a variety of circle dies that you may have on hand and add any elements you want to on it. I decided to use the Scrappy Tales Snow Cabin die set that is an add-on that's available to go with this particular snow globe. Again, it is a circle element, and you have the sky, the little snowscape, and then the cabin and trees. So I die cut these from various scraps of cardstock, and I'm arranging a little scene. I'll actually create 2 scenes that are exactly the same so that I can have both sides of the spinner element. Now I am using some white glitter cardstock for the snow, so it has a little bit of sparkle as it spins. Keep in mind, I am using die cuts for the spinning elements on all of my cards today because I like using die cuts. If you prefer to do stamping, you could do stamping on a circle die cut and just use that as a spinning element. Make it yours and whatever you enjoy to do. Remember, in videos we just show you some options, but the sky is the limit on how you make it your own. Okay, now remember in the snow globe die set, there's the large accordion fold die that is used for the base. Then there is the spinner element die. There are no dies for the side on this because it's a shorter card, so you don't need the support on the side. But there is a smaller circle die, so if you want to create a smaller circle element to spin, you could use that. As before, I'm taking the large snow globe shaped die and taping into it the large window die and die cutting with those 2 dies together. I die cut 4 from Lawn Fawn Blue Jay cardstock. I love this bright navy color. I glued 2 together for the front and 2 together for the back. So the front and the back of this snow globe are the same, but you could do whatever you want. I also cut the large accordion fold die from the same color of Blue Jay cardstock, and I'm folding that accordion fold back and forth. This is just like we did with the other die set. There will be one flap that is larger. That's the one that can kind of fold over to the front. I also cut the smaller spinner element. This we are going to fold once again into the M shape, and at the bottom of the center of the M will be a little hole for the string. This time I'm partially assembling the snow globe before adding the spinner element. So I'm putting adhesive on that small little flap, leaving the larger flap hanging down, and I'll put the front of our snow globe right against it. Again, that larger flap can kind of fold up and be like a decorative front to the snow globe. The rest of the accordion fold is sticking out the back. Now I'm flipping this over, so the back of this front panel, I'm putting liquid adhesive right at the top so we can put that little spinner element. That's the M with the hole in the bottom. And I'm pressing that right onto the top. Now I'm going to stop and put the spinner element in before we add the back of the snow globe card. So there are a few ways you can assemble this. Each time I'm showing a little different option so that whatever you feel would work for you is what you could try. I am changing up how I add the thread this time. This time I'm adding a folded piece of thread to the back of our spinner element first, then attaching it to the card. So I'm making a mark at the top back of our little scene here, and I'm taping the thread onto it. It's folded over, so two ends are kind of hanging off the top. Now I'm going to add these onto our spinner card. Before, I added the thread to the spinner card, then onto this spinning element, but I felt like I wanted to try this way. Either works fine. Now I'm gluing the other scene to the back side of it. So the thread is sandwiched between with the two ends hanging out. So I'm taking those two ends and I'm feeding them through that hole in the spinner element. Remember, that's at the base of the M. I will admit the thread that I chose kind of unravels a bit, so I do recommend instead using all-to-new metallic thread. I really like that, but I couldn't find it at the moment, so I just used something else I had on hand. But any thin string would work here. So after I fed the two ends of that thread through the hole up towards the top of the snow globe, I'm centering the scene right at the center of the snow globe window and taping it down onto my work surface so that I get it positioned just right. Then I'm taking two small pieces of Scotch tape. Now watch, I'm opening that little M and kind of flattening it out and putting a piece of tape right there to hold that thread in place. That way I don't have to tie a knot and worry about it coming undone. This will work much better. I then fold the thread back down and put another piece of tape. This is a trick that I like to do when I'm holding thread in position. I tape it down one way and then fold it back and tape it again because then it's very unlikely to come loose. I trim off the excess and now I press that down with my bone folder so I can get that tape to kind of disappear. And now we can remove the temporary tape and we have our spinning element attached. So I showed you a different way to do this on our early examples. This is just another way to do this. Okay, now it's time to assemble the snow globe and then we're done putting it all together. I put liquid adhesive on the back of the accordion fold, added our back panel on it, press that down, making sure that all of our pieces line up. Then I put some liquid adhesive onto the back of our spinner element up there, press it down again, make sure everything lines up, and give that a bit of time to dry. So now we have a spinner element in a 5x7 card form. I like that there are two different options, so I can use whatever die cuts I have for that middle element, whatever fits better. To decorate this, I did keep the flap on this time, so I'm putting liquid glue here and then folding that flap up. I'm using a Memory Box Let It Snow die set. So this has the shadow and the words Let It Snow. I cut the shadow from the same Blue Jay cardstock and then the words Let It Snow from white cardstock and glued those together. Then I will glue that right onto the front of our snow globe. I also cut several different snowflakes from this Waffle Flower small snowflake die set. I cut some from a light blue cardstock and some from a white glitter cardstock and added that all over the snow globe. So here is the completed project. I just put it in a 5x7 envelope. When it comes out, that element spins and it pops up to allow you to put it on display. So you can see all the little snowflakes I added. I just did that around the base this time, and I added a few iridescent gemstones. So you could do whatever scene you want on the middle there. In fact, I think this would be fun to use year-round. You could do a little Easter scene for Easter. You could do a little Halloween scene for Halloween, but it definitely works well for a snow scene like this one. So you can incorporate whatever products you already have and give them a new look and something that's more of a keepsake than a regular card. Okay, my fourth spinner example is using the same snow globe die set, the A7 one, but this time we have a wreath that spins. I used the Scrappy Tails Wreath add-on die set. This has a solid wreath die and then a wreath die that goes with it that has some detail to it. Also lots of poinsettias, a little bow die, and some berries. I'm just using the little poinsettia flowers and layering those together using 2 different colors of peach cardstock. I have since made many of these wreaths because I think it's a beautiful set with lots of different options available. I did decide to add a bow to it using the Waffle Flower Twine die set. This one has great dies in it for creating little bows. It'll be on my favorites list this year. And I created little bows from gold cardstock to add to the wreaths. Now I created 2 wreaths exactly the same so they could be back to back for the spinner element. So those are the 2 wreaths that you see here, and I'm also adding some peach pearls and some gold gemstones just to really make them stand out even more. I wanted this to be a special card where the focal point was on the wreath. Now I'm not going to show you the process of assembling the snow globe because it's exactly like I did last time. But this time I did a gold cardstock for the front and white for the rest of it. I have my wreath spinning there in the center, and I added my sentiment towards the bottom there. That's the Memory Box Merry Christmas die set. I've used that before in a video. I cut the shadow from white cardstock and the Merry Christmas words from green so it would match the wreath. I also added some little pine die cuts that I cut from green cardstock, and 1 more of the little poinsettia along with some pearls. So I always try to make the base of the snow globe tied together with that center spinning element. And I usually put my sentiment down there, but you could definitely have the sentiment on the spinning element if you prefer. By the way, those little pine die cuts that I had sticking out from the Merry Christmas sentiment, I used a die from the Scrappy Tails Assorted Christmas Leaves die set. This has lots of different options included and can be used in many ways. Now I did create a non-spinning card using that wreath die set because I love it so much, and I wanted to share a trick with you that I did to cut that merry and bright sentiment strip. Sometimes I'll either stamp or hot foil, as I did in this example, on a piece of scrap cardstock and it's not straight. But I want to cut it straight into a sentiment strip, and I don't have a die handy. This is a trick that I do, and I highly encourage you to try this. It is really helpful. I take the straight edge of a piece of scrap cardstock and I tape it right where I want to cut along that sentiment, so right along the bottom there. And I just tape it temporarily in place. I then put this into my trimmer and I put the edge of that cardstock, the bright color cardstock, right against the edge of my trimmer blade. Then when I cut with the trimmer, I know I cut right along the edge of that sentiment where I want it to cut. Look at that. It's nice and straight and lined up below my sentiment. Now I can cut the right and the left edges very easily. Next, we need to cut that other edge. So I take the same piece of scrap cardstock, line up the straight edge where I want my next cut to be, and I again use temporary pieces of tape to hold it in place. I reuse these pieces of tape a few times. It's amazing how much life you can get from them. Then I put this back into my trimmer, put the edge of the colorful cardstock scrap right against the edge of the blade, cut once again, and now we have our sentiment strip cut just exactly how we want. This is a huge time saver if you don't have little sentiment strip dies to cut. Okay, for the background of this card, I used the Honeybee Fancy Flakes dies. Now there are 2 dies here. One cuts a background die cut. The other creates a beautiful pierced pattern. These can be used together or separately. I'm using them together. I first cut the background die. Then I take the pierced die and line that up and run it through my die cut machine again. This gives me a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch background die cut that has pierced details on the die cut. It really steps up the die cut and adds so much interest. Now I glued that onto a white note card that is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches and added a wreath to the center along with that merry and bright sentiment. That was foiled with my glimmer machine. Again, I'll link to a video on the top right on how to do that. And I used the hot foil plate die set that I showed you earlier. Check out that background with the die cutting and piercing pattern on the snowflakes. Also, all the details on that wreath, I just think it's absolutely beautiful. And it's pretty easy to assemble because everything is cut with that die set. Now, before we go, I did want to show you some other examples, not that I made, but they were made by the creator of Scrappy Tales. Her name is Sabrina. She is a young crafter who started this company, and I'm just really impressed with her talent. A few months ago, I did a video showing how to create house-shaped pop-up cards like this one, using some of her dies. I will link to that video here, once again, and at the end of this video so you can check it out. Well, these house dies came out some time ago, but now she has some add-on die sets that you can use for the holiday season. These include little lights, little Christmas trees, wreaths, all kinds of things. I love her example here that she sent me because she has a scene on the inside that you see through the windows. So she incorporated both her stamp sets and her dies to create this dimensional card. By the way, in that video, I show how you can use these house dies to create regular cards too. This is another example that Sabrina sent me. She made this one too. It's a Slimline card. It uses the house dies on the front of it. So it's not a pop-up die, but it shows another way to use it. Then this example was my favorite that she sent. This one has just some fun holiday elements added to the house die cuts. Now here is another add-on die set that is available for the house. I appreciate when companies come out with additional add-ons in future releases for some of their main die collections because it allows you to get more use from it. So she came out with the house dies a long time ago, but now she's adding additional add-ons, which I think is brilliant. Now this she sent to Lila. I think this is fantastic. It's an advent calendar where each day a little window opens and there's a piece of candy behind this. I'll admit I'm looking for one of the windows with a Rolo in it because I love Rolos and I'm going to steal one. But this also, all the add-on dies and stamp sets are available if you want to do an advent calendar house like this. I just wanted to show these because I love seeing a new company come out with such innovative products. I hope you enjoyed this video and watching these spinning snow globe cards come to life. I think it's fun to do something different every once in a while, and especially if they are main sets that you can use with products you already have. If you're interested in the supplies, they're linked below in my YouTube description. At the end here, I have a couple other videos that I've talked about today incorporated there on the end screen. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again soon with another video and have a wonderful week.